66,000, it needs to be based on something.
Chair, I will request the CC Finance to respond on the issue of the extra revenue, the 15 million, where it came from. I think on the issue of the pay bill.
Yeah, please.
Yes, Chair. When we were collecting the land rates, and when we were collecting the rentals from the various people who host the county government, there was an additional, they were given a choice to pay either through the bank directly, not through the system, because the arrears are calculated, and also the choice to pay through the pay bill. So that is why this list is not generated from the Kiripe system, but it's generated from the supporting receipts which were received as at that time. So these additional arrears came from the land rates after we had advertised for the people to clear the land rates, and also from the arrears from the housing, the people who occupy county government housing.
So, Auditor, this 15 million ought to be part of what? Accounts receivable?
Yes.
Has it been accounted for as such?
Yes, it has already been disclosed as in the statement of arrears.
The statement of arrears?
Yeah, one related to land rates of 13.7 million and property land of 1.4 million.
So in your Annex 4, if you add up those totals, they come to 15 million?
Yes.
So the question is, the way that it is presented, you are not very sure of the source of the data, the way it is presented to us. It is not headed, it is not described, we just have a schedule there. But as I'd said, if it was money spent, we would be very harsh. Vice Chair.
I think, Chair, what they need
Chair,
to
on
do...
what you're saying.
Just a minute, Senator Maruma. Please
Because
proceed.
I'm looking at that schedule, Annex 2, on the last page. I'm looking at 2, the land rates and property payments. Because if you were to look at the rest of these documents, which are not even stamped and so on, when the cash deposit is, when we pay through cash deposit, say on the page that reads 713 million, the total.
Yes.
There is 17 million paid by Mary Dhuku, the Guku Miano.
On?
How would you authenticate this 17,500 was paid if you don't have a bank statement, for example? I'm saying, when these payments are done, not through the system, and a cash deposit is made, how would the auditors know that this schedule is authentic when you don't have a bank statement to confirm that these payments are made? I'm saying that because these documents were given later on, after the auditing was complete. How will you know that these documents are authentic if we don't have a corresponding bank statement to the auditors? Or auditors, how do you authenticate these values, these figures, which are typed here, without a corresponding bank statement to show that cash deposits were made? That's my question.
I think, Chair,
Governor?
maybe... Oh, sorry. Chair, maybe just to clarify to the Vice, that the issue here is that there's money in the bank which we can't say where it came from. It's not that we are saying we have paid and they can't trace the money. So the explanation is, this extra money in the bank, where is it from? That is the question, and that's why the Chair was saying if it was an expenditure issue, you would raise the concern. So just to clarify that to the Vice Chair, but to ask the CC Finance to explain on the issue of the payment, again, of the arrears, when people are paying arrears, I think it's the English, it's not to say that it's extra arrears, but when people are paying arrears, why this money was not captured at this exact time when it should have been captured in the books, and it shows as an excess without traceability.
Yeah, because as your officer submits, we've got a account receive of revenue, whose job every day should be to account for all receipts and to follow up all arrears. That's their primary job description. And so if you tell me the auditor came and some reports were not ready, then it tells me that you are a receiver of revenue. Perhaps we need to, is your receiver of revenue here? Where is the receiver of revenue? Because you are the one who prepares this financial statement.
It's
Chair, she is with us. She's even to find some space here, but she's here outside.
But I'm seeing here the receiver of revenue is Edward Nyaga Njagi.
Oh, I was talking of the accountant who prepares the statement.
Who is the receiver of revenue?
In that case, I'm the one, Chair.
Yeah, you are the
Yes.
one who should be telling us.
You don't even know that you are the one. You are okay.
Chair, it's like I overhand the whoever prepares the statement or
You are the one who prepared it. I can see your signature here. So, ideally, you are the one who's supposed to be offering the explanation.
Yes.
If it's your daily job
Yes.
to account for all the receipts,
Yes.
and if you already have an automated system, why should the Auditor General come, spend 3 months, and find, it's not even 3 months, 6 months, to the closure of the financial year, you are still adding things up? Are you cooking?
No.
Chair,
no.
if you allow me to respond, in our revenue collection system, the property rates and the land rates module was the last one to be upgraded. So by the time to be added to the system, uploaded. So by the time we were collecting this revenue, the land rates and the property rates module was not active. That is why we resorted to collecting manually through the banks. You are either given the pay bill, you pay to the bank, or you take your payment directly to the bank.
So when was that module turned on? Was it during the financial year or after closure of the financial year?
The module is active now in this financial year.
During the year under review?
And during the year under review, it was not active.
This is why Auditor General had said you must give us an account of the state of automation, because I'm not going to take the word of the governor.
Yes.
The governor says all streams are automated. The officer is now saying that property rates had not been automated in the year under review. The Senate wants an objective report from the OAG on the systems environment.
Chairman, I want to agree with you. We are carrying out audit of systems in several counties, but maybe I can confirm whether Kirinyaga is one of them. Maybe it has not been done, then it's in the pipeline. But I know it's been done. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. So is that going to be your main position, that there was delay in automation of that module? That's why you are preparing these schedules later.
Yes, sure.
But that should come from the receiver of revenue, unless he's been given a title, but not the power.
Chair, I usually prepare regular reports and brief Wasiri, and that way she could be in a position to understand the situation.
CPA Njagi,
Yes.
when you append your signature onto a financial statement,
Yeah.
you take professional responsibility.
Correct, Chair.
I'm not sure whether, is the CC a member of ISPAC?
No.
No, Chair, I'm not.
Yeah, you are the professional who
Agreed.
takes professional responsibility, such that if you are to tell ISPAC to discipline their members,
Yes.
it will be you. It will not be the CEC.
Agreed.
So I think we need to make it clear that those who prepare financial statements must be here, and they must be able to take responsibility. A lot of times we are putting the blame on governors, and then the officers get away, especially the ones with professional responsibility. Senator
Chair,
Ombua.
Chair, when that happens, then it pricks my conscience, because I've dealt with that problem many times in my county, where officers sign financial documents and they pass it back to other people. No, it's not me, it's somebody else. You cannot tell us that you have prepared documents on revenue and handed over the documents to your minister, And it is hard to tell us the details about those accounts because really that's not being fair. It's either being unfair or being unprofessional or perhaps even just bordering on being incompetent. That's what it is. You know, when we sit here, it's a Monday, my friend. When you look at our schedule, we are supposed to be in the constituencies, in our counties. But we've come here to deal with issues of your county. I think, Chair, it's only fair, so that we also don't want to be seen to be playing funny games. It's only fair that people give proper responses to questions that are put to them. And lastly, on the issue of automation, let's just be clear, Madam Governor. Are the systems in Kirinyaga fully automated or are they not? You know, it cannot be from one side of our mouth they are automated, on the other side of our mouth they are not automated. One side of our mouth, that year under review, the systems were not uploaded or whatever it was that was not done. In the next financial year, now we are okay. Let's get our position, Chair. Otherwise, what we are doing here, it's like we are playing some games.
Yeah, just
I'm not happy.
Chair,
Senator Muruma?
on Senator Wambua's issue that on Part C, the gravamen of the audit query is aging analysis schedule was not provided for audit confirmation, that there was lateness in providing documents for audit review, and some action must be taken either on the receiver of revenue being late to give the documents to the CEC, or if they're given good time to the CEC, then why did the CEC provide them for audit review during audit? That is what we want really answered. It doesn't matter whether the automation was complete. That module was automated later on for collection of these arrears and the land rates. But why were the documents that were available not given during audit for review?
Yeah, Governor, give us a precise answer because I'm wondering why we are having this conversation on revenue. Should we be spending more time on expenditure when you have a receiver of revenue established, and when he has signed there, Wananjagi has said he has referred to PFM Act sections 162 and 2A. On revenue, we should not spend this much time. So you've had the concerns that have been raised. Can you give us a way forward in terms of response so that we can make a recommendation?
I'm trying to get clarity on the question, whether the question is why the aging analysis of the arrears of revenue was not provided. Is that the question?
Okay, let me just ask it again.
Yes,
The aging analysis schedule was not provided for audit confirmation. That is the question. During audit, all this information is supposed to be provided. It was not provided. The question is why?
That is a question the Auditor General asked in Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3. All that was not provided for audit verification. Where you have someone whose job description is to ensure that revenue is accounted for and there is clear visibility, granularity on the sources, and you know who owes you what.
The aging analysis is a report, Chair, that shows monies owed to the county, just to clarify. And the question as to why they were not provided on time by the receiver of revenue. I think the CEC and the receiver of revenue, I will ask them to respond to that. And I think it's the same response they had given, but I'm not sure.
I think, members, unless there's something new that will be coming from the officers, this is a matter that we just need to refer to Section 62 of the Public Audit Act, because we do not seem to find any justifiable reason why these schedules were not provided at the time of audit. And I think we would probably make recommendations along the lines of that section, which talks of a public officer who fails to provide information without justifiable reason at the time of audit. Now, there's a last one on collection measures employed by management to cover arrears that yielded insignificant collection. Now, this is a matter of interest to this committee. We have seen governors put up billboards across towns and cities for waiver of arrears. And we have never done a measure that the cost you have put in publicity, newspaper adverts, you have referred to newspaper adverts here, we cannot see them. You know, the cost you put in to push that agenda and the return out of it, is it proportional? The Auditor General is saying that you are only able to achieve 1%. So how much did you spend in the waiver campaign? And how much can you say was collected as a result of that targeted campaign?
Chair, Kirinyaga, we just put an advert in the newspaper, and then we publicized with our vehicle going round. That is how we did it. We did not put billboards and all. However, we did not yield much in terms of the arrears. And we are now considering, as a response is put there, on having a mapping exercise and then maybe consulting internally and with the assembly how to deal with the people who haven't paid, because it's a very sensitive issue in the rural areas.
How much were you able to collect as a result of that campaign?
How much did we collect?
If your arrears was 600 million, 1% is 6 million. We've seen these billboards. Nairobi City, you find a smiling governor overshadowing everything on the roadside. Kiambu, when you're driving along the highways, huge billboards that cost a lot of money. But no one ever questions whether the governors are promoting themselves or they're pushing for increased revenue collection, because no study has been conducted. And I think, Auditor General, when you make this kind of query, you should also be able to tell us how much they spent. If it was a full-page newspaper advert, that's typically how much? 500,000, probably. And if it rained for a couple of weeks, compared to what you've collected, I think we need a better quantification of cost and benefit. Governor, do you have it?
I don't have a cost and benefit, but what I can say is that we are owed about 1.2 B of in arrears over the years from what we have in our documents. We only managed to collect about 5 million, 5 point something million, and we spent 3 million? Yes. 3 million. So that's why we're thinking that we need to change the strategy on how to collect these arrears from these people.
And the 3 million is direct expenditure, isn't it? You have not quantified the time.
Yes.
And the other effort, because there has to be a decision by the county executive committee. Perhaps there are actions taken by officers that are not quantifiable. So if you are to put all this together, you find a negative return.
Yes. There has to be a strategy of how to go after, especially the money owed for a long time, because it gets a bit complicated.
Yeah, I mean, this is interesting. You spend 3 million to collect 5 million. We will need to, especially the ones with billboards on our major highways, we will need to find out how much they are putting in.
She puts it well, that there will be need for strategy to deal with that. But then my question would be, where do we place that responsibility? Who should come up with that strategy?
I think we need a law so that you have something to fall back on. Because if it's land rates, for example, it means you possess, you know, and it gets very political. So how many, like 1.2, Kirinyaga is very small, 1.2 would affect quite a number of households. And sometimes you don't know at what point to say you waive or you discount so that they are able
Governor,
to pay.
that decision is entirely yours. Because a decision on waiver is not arbitrary. You must see it as an executive committee, isn't it?
You
to
waive
make-
interest, but I cannot waive tax. I cannot say that someone will not pay their tax as a governor. I don't have that power. We can waive an interest, you know, saying because you delayed for 6 years and the interest is maybe, if you owe me 10 million, your interest is 2. We can waive interest, but the actual tax that you owe the government, we don't have the powers to cancel.
You might want to look at the Laikipia situation. Laikipia attempted to write down their arrears, and I think there's a process that they went through. So it is not unprecedented.
No, you know, the reason I asked that question, Governor, is because actually, yes, there is need for that strategy. I'm not very sure whether then that decision will be made at the national levels, talking about the Senate, because then the implication, as you said, different counties deal with different challenges in terms of collecting these arrears. I thought that decision would have to be made at the county level. Whether it is legislation then that has gone to local legislation, that has gone to the county assembly, but then of course originating from the executive. Because at the end of the day, if you ask me, and I could be wrong, but if you ask me at the end of the day, I think governors need to be a little bit more creative in how they deal with some of these issues. And you can be creative within the law. You can initiate local county legislation to deal with your arrears and your rates and all that. I'm saying that here because, you know, you go to another county and you realize that if there is no money that is coming from the exchequer, they simply don't pay their staff forever, you know, until that money arrives. And when that money arrives, it arrives through some bank. And the governor does not just want to have an arrangement with the bank and come up with standing orders on how to pay this. So at the end of the day, Governor, I don't think you can escape responsibility on that strategy that you're talking about. It has to be in your office, maybe then with support from the county assembly.
Yeah, I think that's for emphasis. That responsibility still lies with you. And we keep reminding people in counties that you've got a lot of powers. Sometimes you don't utilize them. That's when national institutions come in. For example, when the governor of Nairobi has a tiff with Kenya Power over issues of wage leaves and collections in lieu of rates, and then, you know, it's escalated to the dimensions that it went, that was completely unnecessary. Now, we need to bring closure to this conversation on receipt of revenue, but we must note that we expect greater accountability from the receiver of revenue, and we will really have a challenge on admitting some of this evidence. Thankfully, it is revenue. Thankfully, it is revenue and not expenditure. I think as we conclude, our Parliamentary Budget Office tells us that the revenue potential for Kirinyaga is 1.2 billion. You have collected 50 million more, which might look impressive, but you must be judged. You must be judged against your potential. You're only at 50% of your potential. Governor, what are the measures that you're putting in place beyond the issues of arrears?